Yeah, that's right. I see the chat. I see y'all rocking. I see y'all coming. Hit that like button as you enter the building. You know what I'm saying? Hit that like button. Show your love. Show your support. You know what I'm saying? This that dope soul. This that new thing. Nobody don't know about it.
Hello, Knick family. Welcome to the Knicks Recap and Reaction Show with Geoff Klafter from the Happily Ever Klafter Daily Sports Blog, and of course, resident panelist on the weekly show. The Knicks won their second game last night in Madison Square Garden against the Boston Celtics, 105-95. Wasn't a great shooting night for the Knicks, but listen, just win, baby. Just win. And the rest of the stuff you work out, as you go along. I didn't think they shot particularly well in the first game as well, but good teams find different ways to win. And the Knicks did that last night. And we're going to get into it. Geoff, shout out to the chat. Geoff, how you feeling this morning?
Smiling like the butcher's dog, man. That was good stuff. Beating Boston is dope for the soul for sure. For me, man, that was tasty pudding. Let Jalen walk out of there with that L hanging on his chest. I'm happy with that.
Yeah, for sure. Let's just get right into it. Again, we'll get into the individual players later. Obviously, if you have to mention them to make your point, that's super fine. But just in terms of the overall flow of the game, what did you see? What did you like?
Well, I actually want to start. It's going to sound maybe a little negative, but I think it's interesting that the starting lineup that a lot of Knicks Twitter and a lot of us were, including myself, were clamoring for with Deuce in it. They started the game with a 6-0 run for Boston, and they started the third quarter with an 8-0 run for Boston. So they evened it out. Like, I think they were only -1,
right.
Overall. So they kind of got their act together, but they kind of tripped and stumbled out of the gate both halves. And so I thought that was kind of interesting. I think this is an important win because it's important that you can find a way to win games when you're not shooting well. I think that's a mark of a good team. When you're struggling shooting the ball, how can you make enough plays? Can you do enough things to win the game? And last night it was rebounding, right? I think we were at a 16 board advantage over Boston, and that led to 4 extra shots, which was big for us. I just think that we punished their weakness. They don't have a lot of front court help at this point. It's just not on their roster, and so I just think that they took advantage of the weaknesses of the Boston team. And I think we're missing open shots. At least to me, it looked like we're getting good looks at the basket. And so I trust that guys who are career quality shooters are going to figure that part of the game out. So I'm not really overly concerned about that. I'm just much more satisfied that we didn't play our best and we won pretty comfortably. I mean, I'm never comfortable until the clock hits zeros, but I think the closest they got was 8, maybe 9 in the second half after that fabulous second quarter. And that's the other thing I would say opening up. If you want a glimpse of what could be with this team, that second quarter is it. Like, that was shining on both ends of our defense was leading to good offense. And we'll get into the particulars of the players in a little bit. I don't want to spoil that part of it, but that 42-14 quarter was, it was impressive stuff. They certainly looked a part of a 60-win team during those 12 minutes, and they literally got outplayed the rest of the game. Like, I think they lost the first quarter by 8, the third quarter by 3, and the fourth quarter by 7. So it's a good thing we did have that explosive second quarter. But I think that they were up so big, they kind of they relaxed, I think, in that second half. I didn't see the same intensity and I think that affected the level of shot making as well, which is, kind of natural, I think, when you're up by, 20 points, and it was coming pretty easy for them at that point.
I agree. I think that if for whatever reason they were able to get back in the game, the Knicks would have responded. I think what stood out was that Huck Porty not only didn't start, he didn't play. And I kind of like that. I kind of like that. I mean, some would say, listen, you name your starters, you stick to your starters, and you make the other team adjust. And there's something to be said for that. But Boston was super small. Other than their center, right? They were super small. He decided to go with Deuce McBride, and I kind of like that versatility. I kind of like, and he said it. He said, "Listen, all of our guys can play. We're a deep team, and we can, change up the starting lineup depending on the opponent." Um, I don't know. I just kind of liked it. I thought that was interesting. That is definitely a different philosophical style from Tom Thibodeau. I'm not saying what's better, what's worse. There's something to be said for continuity as well. But I like that. Actually, did you have any thoughts on that?
Don't you think that's a function of Josh Hart being back in the lineup too, though?
That
I think.
that
I mean, I do think that there was an aspect to Boston was small, but I think in order to get Josh Hart minutes, and frankly, Hart was our best rebounder. We'll get into that more later, but I think a lot of that was a function of Josh being available, and because Gershon's minutes were pretty much the same. I think he's kind of locked into that. So, I'm not sure. I just think that Huck Porty was it was like, one of the, what do we call it? Situational and
Mhm.
based on opponent and availability. It was time. It was his situation, right? And so it's a good problem to have. I mean, it's a good thing to have, and that he was able to step up and play well. I mean, he certainly didn't get benched because he didn't perform well against
Right, right,
Cleveland,
right,
but
right, right,
but
right.
I do think that it's a great point. I didn't think about it till now, and this is why these shows like these are so good. Is that we played two different ways, right? We went big and we kind of matched Cleveland's physicality with Huck Porty, and then we've got a different style team, so we're going to play a different style of ball, and to do that and to be able to switch it up and be effective in either way. That's the kind of versatility that you're going to need in the postseason, because sometimes you got to play big, sometimes you got to play small, and it's not game to game. Sometimes it's within the game, right? And so to be able to have that and see that was really really superb, in a game that was kind of sloppy, and the Knicks weren't their best, but so what? 2-0 is 2-0.
Yeah, and I also think starting Deuce and going small. Well, I'll say I don't know if even if Josh was available first game, I don't know. Huck Porty might have still started, and we may have taken Josh minutes from um, someone else. But it remains to be seen. I think as the season goes on, we'll get a clearer sense of how Mike Brown is going to work these rotations and lineups. Is it just like you said, when people are out? Is it purely based on the competition and the flow of the game? We shall see. But what I also liked about starting Deuce is the Knicks, the fast break points were 15-2, Knicks favor. Boston had two fast break, and for a long time, they didn't have any. And I think they expect, listen, they're playing faster also, right? And I'm pretty sure they was hoping Huck Porty, would
Yeah.
start, and that they would be able to take advantage of running, getting out before the Knicks defense gets set, getting some fast break points. That always helps, any offense. They weren't able to do it. Starting Deuce, we were able to match up much better with them. And again, they only had two fast break points for the entire game. And listen, it's early in the season, but I'm sure they were hoping they would get more than that.
Well, what's
Anything?
crazy is that about that fast break step. We turned the ball over 15 times, and they only got two fast break points. I think that's a telling statistic. Like, I think that's a good sign. Not that we turn the ball over 15 times, but if you're going to play at a faster pace, the turnovers are going to be up. And so if you are going to turn the ball over more, but then still, that tells me the Knicks were getting back defensively, and
They were.
and that's that's kind of a welcome change. That's what killed us in the Pacers series, right? Was a lack of getting back. So to see that, even if it is early on in the season, is definitely a good sign, especially when you're playing against a small team, and that's really the only way they can beat you. It's not like they're going to pound the ball inside with Hauser and Queta. You know what I mean? They're a perimeter team, and the Knicks, Hauser had a great night shooting the ball from 3, 6 of 10, I think, but and Jaylen Brown wasn't bad either, but for the most part, the Knicks did a really good job, limiting their 3-point shooters, I thought.
Yeah, I thought so too. I like the diverse lineups. Yabusele and Hart at 4 and 5. I think at one time it was OG and Bridges. I think Bridges played with the 3-guard lineup at least twice, where he was technically the 4, in that lineup. There were various, 3-guard, lineups. Again, a lot of these lineups, they haven't played together. Do you think Mike Brown will settle on a 10-man rotation and not strictly, sure, make changes based on the opponent, make changes based on the flow of the game? Or do you think this is how it's going to be? It's going to be all types of lineups with guys that may not have played together a lot, and just banking on the fact that everybody knows the system, so it doesn't really matter who's in there. As long as you get to your spots, we pretty much play the same way. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, so a couple things. First of all, I think that it looks like it's going to be 10 and not 9, and I thought it was going to be 9. So wrong again on my part, but I think Tyler Kolek has a lot to do with that, right? Like, because he looks early on, he looks like he's cemented those backup point guard minutes. Like, that looks like it's going to be his role, and he just is. He's really played well, and through 2 games, small sample size, I know, but really, really solid outing again from him. He's a floor general, and just played really well. Credit to him. I didn't see that really in summer league or preseason, but now that he's playing with good players, he's able to do the things that he does at a rotation level, and so I think that gets you to 10 right away. I think it is going to be pretty much 10 guys, and mostly the same 10 guys. I think what's going to change is the minutes distribution within those 10 guys. Like last night, you saw OG Anunoby. I guess he had the cramp, so maybe that had something to do with it too. But Mike Brown even said he could have gone back in if we needed him, but he decided to, roll with the Deuce Hart lineup instead, which was effective. They did a good job. So, I think from game to game, you'll see maybe he goes more with a gut feel with the closing lineups and those, which is a good thing. Like, I don't think that, I think the more versatility that we have and playing the game, we're going to sound like Tibbs for a minute, letting the game tell you what to do as a coach, right? The small ball unit is working. I'm going to leave these guys out there, or I need more size. It's time to dust off Huck Porty and get him in the game, or whatever the case may be. But just to have that flexibility, because it's more difficult to prepare for a team that throws a bunch of different looks at you and can do it with, change it up, multiple times in a quarter. And I think that makes it difficult, because the more especially the later we get in the season, if there's just certain patterns, we saw that last year, the offense after 30 games, like OKC kind of said, okay, we're just going to, put a smaller player on Towns and dare Josh Hart to beat us. And then that became the template for the season. I don't think you're going to be able to do that to Mike Brown's team, that from judging by early on, because he's like a mad scientist. He's doing all kinds of things and testing different lineups. And so Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that we're ever going to be like a consistent 11-person rotation, but it looks like it's going to be 10, and it looks like whoever's playing well is the one who's going to get the most minutes that night. I mean, OG, after looking like the best player on the floor against Cleveland, I mean, he didn't play poorly, but it was not his best game, in my opinion, against Boston.
We'll definitely get into the players. And actually, we might be able to get into them now. I do want to. I mean, I guess I can leave that for the player session about multiple players bringing the ball up. But the pace. I mean, I'm not. The Knicks only averaging like 80 something shots, a game through 2 games. But what I like is they get the ball over half court faster, and that gives them more time in their offense to kind of run through multiple actions to get the best shot, right? So they're doing a lot of, passing the ball up. Like, they're getting the ball up. It has to be like 19 seconds on the shot clock, and we're already over half court running our offense. And it just allows you to get multiple looks. Whereas when you're late in the shot clock, you get that one, good look. You just got to put it up. You can't really search for a better one because you're up against the shot clock. Now you probe, you come out, you pass, you make the extra pass, you probe again. It just allows you to search for the best shot.
Not only that, when you get into your offense quickly, the defense doesn't necessarily have a chance to set up the way they do when you walk up. So it makes it harder on their defensive schemes, especially when you've got a lot of ball movement and those sorts of things, which we do a ton of. So you not only are you getting it fast, you're pushing the pace, you're making the defense be more reactive as opposed to just being comfortable and, okay, this is what we're going to do. This is what we practice. This was our game plan. You have to, I've got to deal with this screen or this back cut or this, and that's what the Indiana Pacers do so well. So it's good to kind of take a page out of their book, and I'm sure that's something that he's taking from his days as an assistant under Popovich and Kerr. You know what I mean? Because those are the sorts of things that they did on the regular. So it's good to see the growth from Mike Brown, and I think it's going to pay dividends in the long run. I don't think we've really seen that come to fruition completely yet, although the results haven't been terrible, but I think it's going to be a lot better, come 25 games into the season.
I agree with that. And I also think, to add to your point, you're making the defense work. You're making the defense work. If you're starting your offense, 19 seconds into the clock and there's ball movement, there's player movement, the defense has to work now. It's not just, the one person that's on Brunson, and everybody else just staying, with their guys, maybe helping a little if he gets into the lane. So the defense has to work. And over time, you're hoping that maybe that takes, a toll on them as well. Let me read the super chat, and then we'll get into the individual players, and then we can start with OG, who you just mentioned. Shout out to the Art Man, formerly known as Steve. It's been a minute. Appreciate you dropping by. Morning, y'all. Big team win. We have options this year. You don't know who's kicking you in the face on a nightly basis, like Chris Tucker in Rush Hour. Even Gershon Yabusele was throwing his weight around, and Cat played great. Cat did play great, despite the 5 turnovers. I thought overall.
And the low shooting percentage.
And he
still played great.
He still played great. And I think, we have to start talking about timely shooting. Because a lot of times you look at the box score, this guy, didn't shoot well. Look at Deuce. Deuce didn't shoot well. We'll talk more about it, but he had 2 timely threes. Cat hit some timely shots. So timely shots matter as well, even if you're not shooting well. So we'll get into that. Let's start with OG. And I wanted to make a point about OG, not necessarily about last night's game, but overall. So 29 minutes last night. And again, I think he would have played more had he not cramped up. 10 points, 2 rebounds. Geoff is right again. I'm saying, I think he's not going to get 14, but I think he's going to be a better rebounder this season. 2 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 steals, only shot 30% from the field, 3 of 10, only 28% from 3, 2 of 7. He hit however many free throws he took. He hit both of them. Listen, you could say this about Cat. You could say this about McBride as well. Some nights the shot is going to fall. Other nights it's not. I still think you trust the process. You trust your work. You keep taking the same shots within the offense. And over the course of a season, it'll average out more often than not. But I want to say this about OG, because we were talking about this on a weekly show, that his handle is not great, and we hear that on the in the chat as well. And I joked, well, nobody told OG that. And I rewatched the first game. I was watching him last night. It's not the tightest handle. It's not the tightest handle, but he has confidence in it. He brings the ball up and particularly in that first game, he brought the ball up the court a fair amount of time, putting it through his legs. Like, he's comfortable with the ball in his hands, and he faces up and actually takes his guy off the dribble. And you can argue if there was better defenders and, they'll snatch it. But as loose as it looks, he gets to where he needs to go with it. And he's not afraid to face up and drive in the key, pull up for a jumper or turn around jumper. He's super confident in that handle. And through the first 2 games, it's been working out. I mean, I have questions, and we have a long way to go about our ability. Do we have the ball handlers who can bring the ball up against pressure? And a lot of times that does happen in the playoffs, where there's the pressure of the moment and then there's the defensive pressure. Do we have the ball handlers that can do that? And that remains to be seen. But through the first 2 games, I've kind of liked multiple players bringing the ball up the court. Deuce, Clarkson, OG, Bridges. But overall, wasn't a good shooting night for, OG Anunoby. But it bees like that sometimes. Your thoughts on OG last night?
Well, first of all, look at through 2 games, he's averaging 8 3-point attempts per game. So I think that's something I want to keep an eye on. If that stays consistent, like, yeah, he only hit 2 this time, but he hit 4 last time, right? So it's and 4 out of 9, 2 out of 7. If you're going to be 6 out of 16 from 3 on the season, then you live with that, right? More than you live with that. That's terrific, right? Especially from Anunoby. So from that aspect, he's fine. Like I said, I think the rebounding kind of come back down to earth, but I think I think you are correct. And I think it's 14 and 2, 16. So maybe, if he, roller coasters like that, that's 8 rebounds per game. That would certainly be an uptick from anything he's done in his career. So, I don't think it's going to be that high either, but he still guards well. There was that one possession where he just Brown had him one-on-one and he just stonewalled him. He was up in his jersey and forced him into a tough miss. And you're just like, yeah, that's the value of OG Anunoby, even if he doesn't have very many points. But I do think that the best actualized version of this team is where Anunoby is able to, be up 15, 16, maybe 18 points a game, somewhere in that neighborhood. If he's doing that on a consistent basis, that makes the Knicks terrifying, right? And look, 5 guys, all 5 starters in double figures, and so some nights it's going to be an OG night, some nights it's going to be a Bridges night. Last night it was our big guns, right? And so I think that's kind of the NBA. Some nights you get to shine, and some nights you have to be the understudy. Tonight he was or last night he was the understudy, and that's fine. Like, he's going to have other nights where he's going to shine and do what the situation requires, right? We didn't need a massive game from OG last night to win that game, and so it's kind of gravy when he does have those big games like he did in the opener. We certainly wouldn't have won either one of these games, in my opinion, without his services. So I'm happy with OG's play. And to borrow another Tibbsism, I know I'm driving the chat nuts there. You don't have to shoot well to play well. And I think Towns was really, and we'll talk about him later, but I think that's certainly the case with him last night as well.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, the good thing about the Knicks is we have a lot of players who can score 20 or more on this team on any given night, who can step up their game. So, when you're on a team with 2 or 3 scoring options, if one of them have a bad night, puts a lot of pressure on the other two, and that's just not the case on this team. So yeah, let's get into Cat. A monster game, played 33 minutes, 26 points, 13 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal, 1 block. We talked about the 5 turnovers. Didn't shoot well, to your point, 37.5%. So he was 6 of 16 for the game, 66.7% from 3, 4 of 6. So he took 6 3-pointers. He took 4. He made 4, which is great. And he went to the line 12 times and made 10 of them. He's always been a good free throw shooter, 83.3%. Listen, to me, he's such an advantage. He has such an advantage when he's at the 5 playing against other centers. They just don't have the foot speed. They just can't handle him. Defensively last season, the Knick wasn't great when he was at 5. The rim protection wasn't there. But I just wonder, with Mike Brown and the schemes and the aggressiveness of the Knicks defense, if it'll be different this year when he is at the 5. And that's something I'm going to keep my eye on, because if it is, that means we can use that lineup more. We don't have to be afraid, like, oh, all right, we good offensively when we go to the 5, but the defense just falls to shit, right? Hopefully that's not the case, and we're able to go through it more, because it just creates so much spacing for him to drive, for the cutters, for the playmaking. It just changes everything. And he had some timely shots for us as well. It wasn't just a blowout game, 26 points. Some of those points were in key times of the game when we needed it. So shout out to Cat, who said he doesn't know. I don't know if he said he doesn't know what his role will be in this offense or whatever he said. They're going to figure it out. It seemed to be figured out in game 2. Thoughts on Cat?
Well, first of all, I think the timely shots comment is spot on. He carried the offense in the first quarter. Like, we would have gotten blown out of that game if it wasn't for Towns. I mean, we lost the first quarter by 8 points anyway, but I think Towns hit some big threes right out of the box. I think he hit 3 of his first 4 from deep, and he was such a key early on, and I think he's being asked and tasked to do some different things, and I think that's what he meant when he said about his role.
Mm-hmm.
He's having to do things that he's maybe not as used to, and so that, I think that's kind of like, well, okay, I have to do this now. I'm not so much used to doing that, but look, when you're the biggest and baddest and best player on the floor, attack the basket, get to the line. Like, free throws were a big deal for us in each of the first 2 games, and he's a big part of that, because you can't guard him without fouling him. He's just that good. I mean, even when he misses, they foul him, right? It's just they're not going to call every time, right? But if you're getting to the line 10, 12 times, if Brunson's getting to the line 10, 12 times, like that. And he missed 2, I think, on the whole night. So those are free points that takes a lot of pressure off, especially when you're not shooting the ball well from the field, which wasn't just a Towns thing, by the way. That was an everybody thing. Deuce was horrific from the field last night. I think Brunson had a decent night, but most of those shots were in the fourth quarter. We'll talk about that in a minute. And Bridges had an efficient night, but he didn't put up a lot of shots, right? So we weren't hitting shots all night. The free throws helped us, and he's a big reason for that, because you get into the penalty early, and then you have guys who can attack with space. And I think it's all a function of it, like the small ball lineup or the spacing lineup gives them lanes to attack and drive and draw those fouls a lot more easily than what we saw last year. And so really happy with Towns. He's playing through injury, and I salute to him for that. He's definitely not 100%, and he's gutting it out and playing hard and being an instrumental part of our offense. And I love your comment about the defense too, because we didn't have a rim protector in the game all night, and you can argue that we didn't need one because they didn't have a center, but I think you need one even more in some of those cases, because Boston likes to get into the paint with those guards and then spray out for the 3-point shooters. And we protected the paint extremely well that's not something we've done in the past. Like last year, Boston just eviscerated us, from three also, but they really did a good job scoring in the paint also. And even without a true rim protector in there, to give up 95 points and really, and Boston hit, a decent number of threes. So that means that, their 2-point shooting wasn't that great. So Mike Brown's scheme for keeping folks out of the paint and not allowing points in there is working. So that's a positive sign early on. And I think it's a function of ball pressure as much as anything. And we'll talk about that more too. But I think that we have, the way that we're playing, we have our guys in more natural roles for themselves, and that goes a long way toward better defensively, because you're not asking people to do something that's not really at the top of their skill set. So I think that's huge.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to point out, just from rewatching the first game, Towns had to put out a lot of energy at that 4 position, guarding the power forwards. I'm going to watch this game over again. Maybe he put out just as much energy this game as well. But I just saw him, just kind of all over the place defensively in game 1, and just wondering how much do you want that from him, at his size? Does that tire him out? Does that impact his offense? Just an early observation, just seeing him at the 4 position. It was just a lot of he was in movement a lot, playing the 4. Let's talk about Brunson, and then work our way down.
You want to do that super chat before we get to Jalen?
Yes. Jason Benjamin, always rocking with us. I appreciate you. For all the slack Towns get from our fan base, he is such a matchup problem for teams. He's such a great passer and scorer. He's irreplaceable, in my opinion. Thank you, Jason Benjamin, for that comment, because you just reminded me, y'all know my condition, of what I wanted to add to Cat before we moved on, and that was his passing ability. I mean, he only had 3 assists, but they were really, really good passes, good looks. And I'm pretty sure when I rewatch the game, I'm going to see some other passes that maybe didn't result in assists, because maybe the shot was missed. But his passing ability is another thing that's underrated. And particularly when you have, a lineup where everyone can pass and cut, you got to have players that can take advantage of it, right? If somebody can cut, but nobody can make the pass, what are you getting out of it? I mean, you can get some space because you're dragging somebody with you when you cut through. So you may be leaving somebody open at 3. I mean, that's fine. But you also want to be able to, if they cut in really quick and get the advantage, somebody that can hit them. And Cat is that guy. So I'm just really, he's going to have another amazing season. I think last year was one of his best, if not the best, in his career, and I think it's going to be even better this year. Just shout out to him again. 2 games, small sample size, but really like what I'm seeing from Cat. All right, let's get into Brunson, who was better last night, 50% for the game, but however only shot 37.5% from the field in the first half, 58.3% in the second half. Tended to get his mojo, 3 rebounds, 5 assists, 42.9% from the free throw line, excuse me, the 3-point line, and 88.9% as expected from the free throw line. I thought he looked like himself. He was, again, there was time, particularly, I forgot what quarter it was. Was it the first quarter? When the Knicks could not buy a basket. All you heard was Knicks miss 7 straight shots. Then they'll hit 2 or 3. The Knicks have hit 8. And then, once or twice he kind of just took it. And I wrote in my notes, I said, Knicks fans are probably going to have a problem with these shots right here. But that's what you need, from, if you have a player who can score in ISO, it's not that they never score in ISO. It's just that they pick their spots. And when you're sharing the ball and the ball is moving around and nobody is hitting, sometimes that's the time when you do have to we need a bucket. We need a bucket, and we have somebody in those times that can get him. So I really liked the way he played last night. Let me get to this super chat, and then we'll get to that, and then we'll get to the super chat.
Yeah, we probably should save that super chat for when we talk about him anyway. But as far as Brunson, I think I like the process more. And he had 12 points in the fourth quarter. We only scored 23 as a team in the fourth quarter. So clearly he was, and he hit that. I mean, with a minute and a half left, he hit the dagger 3 that put the baby to bed, right? And so that's what you want to see from Brunson, in my opinion. Overall, good shooting night. Got to the charity stripe a bunch, and I think he and Towns shot like 20-something free throws between the two of them. So that's awesome. But he made timely shots in the fourth quarter. He was, he was rested and fresh, and it was kind of like we talked about back in the days when Randall was here. Randall would have that big first quarter. Well, Cat was the one who had the big first quarter, and then Brunson kind of settled in and did his thing in the fourth quarter, and just it's kind of like when you have those families where where the siblings fight all the time, but the older one is quite a bit bigger than the younger one, and he could just put his hand on his head and he just throws those punches and can't hit anything. Brunson kept the Celtics at that distance, and that in the fourth quarter, and that was good to see.
Look at Geoff with the analogies early Saturday morning. Yeah, and his shots are coming easier, at least some of them, right?
He's playing off the ball more.
Yeah.
But still 5 assists per game. So, I mean, he had exactly 5 in both games. So if he's going to be playing off the ball more and still getting 5 assists with low turnover numbers, I'm very happy with that. Now, I know there are some who'll say he should be, getting like Trae Young, 11 assists. That's not him. That's not the player that he is. I don't think you're going to see that from him. So,
and to your point, he's not playing on the ball as much as he was, and the Knicks shot abysmally. Where the assists coming from when as a team?
That's a key part of an assist. They've got to make the shot.
I think it was us the tutorial on assists ever so often, right?
Yes.
The Knicks shot 37.8% from the
field,
from the 38% overall, but they shot 37.8% from 3. 52% of their shots came from 3, right? 45 of the 86 came from the 3-point line. But as far as 2-point shooting, it wasn't great last night. All right. Let's talk about Bridges, who's rebounding better this season in more ways than one. He had 6 rebounds last night. He played 36 minutes, 12.6 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, 1 block. 50% from the field, 50% from 3, 80% from the free throw. From the free throw line. And you know what? He makes really good decisions. With the ball in his hand, like his reads are really good. Also, so I'm feeling more and more comfortable with Mikal Bridges as the secondary ball handler. Just his vision, just the plays that he makes, how he sets, others up to give them, good looks. I'm not saying it's impeccable, but his decision making with the ball is really, really good. And, we've talked about this. This is going to be the best season for him. I think he's going to probably, be if there is a third scorer on this team, or, I think it'll be Bridges. What did you see from him?
It was encouraging to me because I think it shows a consistency, right? I thought he looked the same in game one as he did in game two. Like the stocks, I think, is something that we want to continue to look for moving forward. I think he had 5 in game one. He had 3 in game two. So that's outstanding. If you're going to get 4 stocks a game from anybody, he's making an impact on the game, and that doesn't, he's a good offensive player, and if you utilize him, more, he was pretty much asked to stand in the corner for a lot of last year, and you're seeing when you activate him, when you give him the ball and you let him do some things, he's just a lot more effective, because that's the kind of game that he has, and I think when you put him in positions to succeed and you give him the more space, that allows him to be a higher percentage, higher efficiency player. Like, if you notice, both games he's really shot the ball well from 2-point range and from 3-point range, and I think that's something that we're going to continue to see, just because it seems like he's getting the ball in his spots, whether it's to make a pass or to or to shoot. And so I love Mike Brown was like a steroid shot for Bridges. I mean, he really has been impressive so far, and I expect that to continue. I think he's, as Jerrell said on the weekly show, he has the potential to be the real X factor for this team. And if he has a superb all-star type season, this team could win 60 games.
Yeah, and if the Knicks win 60 games, we're going to get 3 all-stars in. And I believe Bridges would be one of them. Let's talk about Deuce. Didn't shoot well last night, but did it
talk about Hart first, so we can do that super chat?
Oh, okay. Where are we?
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt or steal.
That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Okay. Shout out to Bob Hart. 19 minutes, 14 rebounds. Kolick's defense was up. Go Knicks, go. Yeah, I mean, I guess we could talk. You talked a little bit about Kolick, and I'll add to that. Hart does Hart things. What was it? 19 minutes, only had 2 points. I think he was 0 for 3 from the field, 14 rebounds, 6 of them offensive, 8 defensive. He did have 3 turnovers. 2 of those offensive rebounds were timely. And we were able to, I believe somebody hit, a 3-pointer eventually off of one of them. He was really active. I know there's some in the fan base really down on Josh Hart because of the Indiana series, but last year he had the best season of his career, and through the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, he was really, really good. And I think he's going to be good for us as well. That finger, though, it's really, I mean, he wasn't a great shooter to begin with, and this finger problem is not going to help. And I think Josh Hart is going to be better defensively this season. I think they all will be. I think he'll be better as well. Thoughts on Josh Hart?
Well, first of all, I like the role. I like 19 to 24 minute Josh Hart better than 36 to 40 minute Josh Hart. I just think you can maximize his hustle, getting the 30-70 balls and everything, like, what I mean? When you have a hustle player like that, and sometimes, it warrants major minutes, but that's a guy who, should be in my opinion, the Mitchell Robinson minute range, 20 to 25 minutes. And we have enough guards that we can make that happen. And his rebounding is spectacular. I mean, that's incredible for a guy who's under 6'5" to consistently to consistently just be all over the glass is incredible. And David Smith hit it on the head. Hart coming off the bench playing 25 minutes per game is proper usage for him. I think it's the right role. And by his own admission, he was worn out come the Indiana series. He said he had nothing left. He had burned himself out, and he played great in the first 2 rounds of the playoffs. So, if you get him at 25 minutes per game for the entire season, then he should be fresh for hopefully 4 rounds of playoffs. Wouldn't that be nice?
That would be nice. Yeah, that would be nice. He also mentioned Kolek's defense. I thought Kolek was solid, overall. I thought his defense, like he scraps on defense. He's where he's supposed to be. I think Mike Brown said in a press conference they track deflections, and I think he had like 6 deflections. One of them I think might have led to a turnover. He continues to make good reads, with the ball in his hand. I think he had 6 points. I don't think his value is going to be. I mean, he does need to shoot the ball because you have to keep the defense honest, and he does that. Him going to the lane, taking guys off the dribble just shows me that, he's tightening up his handle and his craftiness, playing the angles better, right? Because it's not speed that's getting him into the lane. So yeah, I really like what I'm seeing from Kolek. And to your point, it seems like the backup minutes are his. And let's just see how it goes throughout the course of the regular season.
You made a great point, though, the craftiness. But I think part of the craftiness is the space that's generated by the players that he's playing with, right? It allows him to do that. And he kind of has always had that Jalen Brunson-esque feel to him about his game, and that he's not the scorer that Brunson is because he doesn't have that kind of footwork, but he has always been that kind of crafty, wily, how did he even do that? He got beat by the slow white guy kind of, vibe to him. So, but the space helps tremendously with that. And like I said, through 2 games, he looks like, the answer is our backup point guard. And if he keeps playing like this, he deserves it, and he's earned it as far as I'm concerned. He's played really well so far. So hopefully that continues.
Yeah, for sure. Let's get back to
Deuce,
who didn't shoot well last night, but I thought did an excellent job defensively on Pritchard. And then before, well, you can get into that. And overall defensively, and hit 2 timely shots. And I'm going to keep harping on this. Timely shots matter. And Deuce hit 2 timely shots for us last night. 32 minutes, 10 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal, 1 block, no turnovers. Didn't shoot well, 27.3% from the field, took 11 shots, hit 3, took 9 3-pointers within the flow of the game. I didn't think he forced any of those, hit 2. Wasn't a good shooting night for him and a few other players, but overall, I thought he played well for us last night. Thoughts on Deuce McBride?
Well, he's setting the tone. Like the big difference in the Knicks defense is picking the ball up 94 feet, and making the opposition get into their sets late. I think has helped us as much as anything. And Deuce is the best one we have on the team at doing that. And I think it preserves Mikal Bridges some too. So it has an ancillary benefit there also, and it puts people back in their correct place because he can guard the point of attack. That means that against the slot one, he's not guarding the point of attack. And then you have OG. And so everybody kind of gets into their sweet spot defensively. And I think you saw that all night long when he was in the game. Tommy Beer, I think, posted on Twitter, he said that when he was guarding White and Pritchard, they scored a total of 4 points and had 1 more turnover than they had assists. And that is just being a demon on defense. That is outstanding. And, we know Deuce is shooting. It's going to be a roller coaster ride. Like, that's just, he's not the guy who's going to hit 2 out of every 5 every night. He's going to have nights like he had in night 1, and you're like, he can't miss. He's going to have, night he had night where he can't hit the broadside barn. But then, again, 4th quarter when we needed him, he stepped up and he hit a couple of big shots, timely shots, as you said. And so, look, slow starts in each half. I'm not really sure what that was about, with a 6-0 run in the first half, start the first half, and 8-0 the second. But other than that, the deuce minutes were really good, and he adds to the versatility of this team, and you could see why. You can play him next to Brunson, and even though it's small, you don't really hurt that bad defensively. Teams haven't figured out how to punish it yet anyway. So I think it's minutes that you need to continue to see, and it's a lineup we didn't see a whole lot last year. And I thought it was interesting that it was Deuce and Hart in the closing lineup and not OG and Hart. So I think that it speaks to what coach values, and I think it helped us down the stretch because I think when it kind of got within 9 or 10 points, we kind of just put up the stop sign, slam the door in their face, and said, you're not getting any further. So great night for Deuce. You don't have to shoot the ball to play well, and he certainly epitomized that last night.
For sure, but I would like him to be more consistent.
Me too.
I hope it's, like you said, he's not the guy that's gonna go 2 for 5 every night. I'm hoping that I hope he gets to that point though.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That would be great. I would prefer that. I would prefer that over 66% from 3 one game and 28 the next. Just give me 38 to 40% every single night. But we'll see. We'll see. Again, overall, I don't think the Knicks have been shooting well, but I think that will definitely come as the season comes on. Let me get to this super chat, and then we can quickly run through the bench before we get out of here. The Art Man, formerly known as Steve, appreciate you again. What I've gathered from the first 2 games, coach has a lineup for every team we face. We have 4 cemented starters: JB, Cat, OG, and Bridges. The 5th guy is a hybrid based on what we need. It seems that way. I wonder when Mitchell Robinson comes back if that'll be the case. Will he just roll out that double big lineup no matter what and force teams to have to bend to us, and kind of take advantage, of that? Or will it be, like you said, Steve, or the Art Man, formerly known as Steve, if it's a big lineup, he goes with Mitch, and if not, he goes with Deuce. It remains to be seen. What I do like is that, and the Knicks, this particular team, I think last year's team did it already, learning how to play without Mitch, and they had to adjust once he came back. But with incorporating new players and new lineups, right? It's not like a set lineup. It's just different lineups. It's a benefit is they're learning how to play without Mitchell Robinson, right? Because I think even if he is totally healthy, they're gonna load manage him. So he's gonna be in and out of the lineup, and they're kind of learning basically how to play with anybody that's thrown in. So yeah. All right, let's get to, I guess the only players we haven't talked about is Clarkson, Shabin, and Yabusele. I thought Clarkson, was played more under control this game. 16 minutes, 6 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 block, 40% from the field, 50% from 3, hit a few threes for us. His defense must have been great. I will look for that when I rewatch the game, because they have this new thing now, apparently, where they named the defensive player of the game, and it was Clarkson, and he got a hard hat and some Timberlands. What the hell is
going on? New York. I love that. That's great. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I think that's another way to get players to buy in on the defensive end and to kind of reward them, just kind of set it in players' minds that, this is how important, defense is for us. And, there were a few other players, I'm sure, that was in the running, but he got it. So, 16 minutes, a little bump up from, from the first game. The Knicks, I guess because of the poor shooting, I think the bench only scored 16 points last night. You know, and compared to 23 for, you know, for Boston. Again, you could chalk it up to just, you know, the bench shooting, but not getting, you know, just not shooting well, but also Deuce was in the starting lineup. So I think that does impact, you know, the bench scoring. But I really do want Clarkson to come around, because I think the difference between him and Deuce, not that Deuce can't score off the dribble, he's at his best off the catch. And having somebody on that bench who can get their own shot is going to be super important, particularly in the playoffs where teams tend to lock down defensively. So I'm really hoping he comes along as the season goes on. Any comment on Clarkson?
Well, you know, I'm not a big Clarkson fan, but if he's going to defend, then he's playable, right? You can live with the inefficiency if he's decent on defense. Like that's a combination that works. And he was active and he played hard. And it's one of the things that you said in the preseason, and I was kind of like, well, wait and see. You know, you said that he has physical tools that should allow him to play defense, but he hasn't really been tasked with playing defense in Utah. Right. Nobody cared about defense. They were, you know, a 12-win team or whatever they were. And so, you know, maybe with the culture and the environment, and I think that's what you saw. And I think maybe it's like, oh, well, I want to play, right? And I know if I don't give it my all on defense and get going, I'm going to be sitting here on the bench, because there's a lot of guys that he can put in the game. And so, you know, hopefully that lit a fire under him. I was very encouraged by Clarkson's effort and performance in this one. He was much better in the first half than he was in the second. I mean, he was part of that big run in the second quarter, for no doubt about it. But he was plus 19 coming into halftime, and he was plus 12 at the end of the game. So, but you know, all the Knicks kind of fell off in the second half. So I'm not going to put that on him. And plus minus isn't everything either.
Right,
you know, it depends on who you're on the court with and those sorts of things. But I do think it's interesting that you can kind of play Clarkson and Brunson on the court at the same time during stretches. And that's not something that I necessarily thought I would even want to look at, but it has been bad. So, you know, hopefully that continues. And again, lots of ways to mix and match this lineup, these lineups with the different styles and kinds of players. I think that's the point that you were making so succinctly and well, is that Clarkson is different than those other bench guys, right? He just has a different skill set, and sometimes that's what you need. And so if you need that extra creator, you know, I mean, and Kolek is a good assist man, but I think that's a little bit different than shot creator. You know what I mean? And I don't mean to insult it. I just think that those are two different things, right? And so there's nuance there, I suppose. But so I, you know, but the fact that both of them, you know, can succeed in Mike Brown's system, but they could play together, right? And if Kolek is going to play hard and deflect defensively, and Clarkson is going to show up on that end as well, then you can play those two guys together with the second unit, and that makes it a lot better too, because if you can play those guys, then you can maybe have Cat feature with the second unit and help get his scoring numbers up, and you know, and mix and match and just have a really good flow throughout the game, and utilize your you know, your starters really effectively throughout the game. So really encouraged by Clarkson's performance yesterday. If we get that kind of effort on the defensive end consistently throughout the year, he's definitely going to be a key rotation piece.
For sure. You know, Shaman and Yabusele, you know, real quick, you know, Shaman's defense is good. He's just a fighter. You know, like, he's a fighter, he's a scrapper. And what I like about him is he moves his feet. Like, you're not getting around him. And I don't know why. I don't see him as a particularly quick defender, but you're not getting around him. Like, he moves his feet. He keeps you in front with his chest. He doesn't use his hands. You know, he's taking that don't foul, play physical, but don't foul to heart, because his hands is always, you know, back, you know. out of the play. 3 rebounds. One of them was a tremendous rebound in traffic. Only took two shots. Both of them were threes. Hit one of them. I like the Deuce, Shamet, Clarkson options at that 2. If one of them is off, you can just go. You can go to another one. Obviously, they bring slightly, different things, but I just like having all 3 of them. And I thought Shamet would be the odd person out. And maybe when Mitch comes back, he is. He will be. But for now, I just like the way he's playing. And look, for these guys who are getting 13, 14, they're not going to score 10 points. They're not going to grab 5 rebounds. They're not going to. You just want them to come out and do what they do on a high level, and it may not even show up statistically a lot of times. So I like Shamet's minutes, and I'll just talk about Yabusele, and then you can talk about both of them. He seems to be playing himself into shape. He's going to have to play himself into shape, and I'm not sure why he doesn't seem to be in shape, and he may disagree with this. He doesn't seem to be in shape to me. He did play this summer, right, in internationally, so I'm not sure what that's about. 13 minutes, 3 points, 5 rebounds in those minutes, 1 assist, 1 of 2 from 3. I know some of the fan base is a little down on him. I think before it's all said and done, he will make a significant contribution off the bench. So I'm not ready to bury him yet. But I did expect to see. It's only 2 games. I still expected to see more through 2 games. So we'll see. Jury's still out on Yabusele. Thoughts on Shamet and Yabusele?
Well, another thing, Shamet is good at pressuring the ball. So between he and Deuce, I think that's a vital part of what Mike Brown wants to do. So I think you will kind of still see Shamet minutes. I think he's part of the rotation. I think he's earned that spot. He's a dog, right? That's what you like about him. He's tough. He's scrappy. He mixes it up. Historically he's been a good shooter. And I think Yabu's just too heavy. Like, I think as the season goes on and he plays more, and I think he bulked up thinking he was maybe going to be playing back up 5 minutes a lot more. And so I think he put on, and sometimes that doesn't really jive with your game, right? Sometimes you add all that mass and you don't move as fluidly and those sorts of things. So I think Yabu's going to take some time till he kind of, sheds some of that weight and kind of gets more sleek. But I think that, if he's going to rebound, 5 rebounds is good. Like for 13 minutes, I think that's really good. We just haven't seen the 3-point shooting yet, right?
Right.
And that's, but he's not the only one. So a lot of guys, take a few games to get into shape with their shot, and once he starts to make those triples, I think it'll fall more into place for him. He was much better in game 2 than he was in game 1. Yes, of course, Boston is like the Smurfs out there. They don't have anybody with size, and so right. I think that helped his cause a little bit, especially on the rebounding front. But like most players, they look better when they make shots. And last year he showed he was a good 3-point shooter. So and it was on a decent volume. So I don't think that's an outlier. It's always possible. We'll have to see what happens with it. But once that 3-point shot starts to fall a little bit more, I think that we'll be happier with Yabusele. But I don't really have a problem with 13, 14 minutes of Yabusele. Like if that's all his role and that's what he's going to, I don't have issue with that. So I think that I'm not impressed by anything I've seen from him by any stretch of the imagination, but I don't think it's like, oh, he's killing us when he's out there either. You know what I mean? So, he just kind of is, but he's what, 8th, 9th man off the bench right now. That's kind of what you expect from that position on the team. So, and frankly, he's playing in guys like Diawara and Daddy or not. So, he's, coach obviously thinks highly of him and expects him to contribute in a bigger way moving forward.
For sure. Let's I just want to briefly. I need to get this right because the last time I did it, is it the first one? No, it's not the first one. Is it the second one? All right, that's the best one. I like us on the side, but I can't seem to get that look. Anyway, just just team stats. Well, I talked about this fast break points, 15 to 2. I thought that was great. Second chance points, 21-7. I think the Knicks had 21 offensive rebounds. They out rebounded them 53-37. Defensive rebounds, they were +3, 32-29. But offensive rebounds, they were 21-8. 21 second chance points. And when you're not shooting the ball well, getting second chance points really helps. Points in the paint. Boston had 6 more points in the paint than the Knicks. The Knicks are hitting free throws. It's only 2 games, but they're hitting free throws much better than last season. They were 88% last night. And as you can see, just didn't shoot the ball well overall. 38% is not great at all. And basically almost 38% from 3, where they shot 52% of their shots. So
but 38% from 3 is, if that's their season number, that's really good. Like,
no, it is really good. I wasn't down on it at all. That's really good.
But we do need to get that 2-point percentage up. We shouldn't be shooting the same from inside the arc.
But that field goal percentage includes the 3-point percentage. So if it was just a pure 2-point percentage, I don't know, it'd be what, 28? 30, 30%.
Probably about 38, actually, because if we're shooting 38 inside, then outside, it's what I would think that it would be, right? Because it was pretty consistent.
Yeah,
maybe a little less, maybe 36, 35.
Yeah, because the 3-point shooting,
it's pretty atrocious, whatever it is.
Whatever it is, not that great from 2. All right, let's get into our next 2 opponents. Tomorrow, Sunday, 6 p.m., we are at Miami, and then Tuesday, 8 p.m., we are at Milwaukee. These are the projected. Well, I don't know who the projected starters are. Is Mitchell Robinson playing that game? Will Huck Porty back, being that they playing Bam and Khalil Ware? I don't know. Anyway, the Knicks starting lineup. That's why it's projected, right? It could change. These were the starters. Their last game against Memphis, they really blew Memphis out the water.
They kicked their tail
in their last game. So Davion Mitchell and Norman Powell at the guard position. Andrew Wiggins and Bam Adebayo played the forward positions, at least in that game. And Khalil Ware started at center. Hero is out. Rozier, obviously with the gambling probe. Forget probe. The arrest is basically not playing for the foreseeable future. Any thoughts on Miami?
Really want to see us shut down Norman Powell. I think that Deuce and McCall, I think if we can limit him or make life tough for him, I think we'll be in pretty good shape. Assuming, hopefully Towns is able to continue to play, because they do have a pretty big front court. I wonder if we might get a few Jamison minutes again, just to combat that size. I'll definitely be keeping an eye on that. Miami's 1-1, but their loss was to Orlando. So, and I think that was a pretty close game. So
it was.
You know how the Knicks and Heat are. It's kind of like the Knicks and Heat and Knicks and Bulls. It doesn't matter how good the teams are. It always seems like it comes down to the last possession. So I'm expecting a real battle in this one, and it's going to be a tough game. And we'll be 3-0 at the end of it. But I think it's going to be a difficult game for us to win in South Beach.
Would you go with Huck Porty, the double big lineup, or would you go with Deuce?
Oh, that's a good question. I would probably go with Huck Porty, I would think, just because to match their size. but you could. I mean, OG, I think, could do all right against Bam. So you could, if Towns is healthy, you could roll with Deuce in that starting lineup. Be interested. I think it might speak to what his philosophy is, depending on who starts. I think it'll give us some insight into what he thinks about with this team. But I'm not overly concerned, because even if Ariel starts, he's only going to play like 12 or 13 minutes, if that. So it's not like he's going to be in there a whole bunch. So, if it's Deuce that starts, I still think he's going to get starters minutes either way. Like I think he'll play 32 to 34 minutes. And then how is Josh Hart? Like, is Hart back again? And because that, if he is, that means he's going to get minutes somewhere. That means less minutes from somebody else somewhere. You know what I mean? So maybe that affects things too. So we'll have to see moving forward. But I think that they'll probably match them size for size, I would guess.
All right. Okay. List of shows. Listen, I had all four of us. PowerPoint really had me last night. All four of us on the side. And whenever I turned it into a PDF, you and Ajay disappeared. I hope that's not a bad omen,
Yeah, well, I don't know. I'm a little bit worried about that. She's trying to get me fired after day 2. What's going on, though? Hey, Jerrell's the best of us. It's all right.
All right. So Monday, 7:30 p.m. Stats and storylines with Ajay. So that's going to be the show where we preview the upcoming opponents for the week, and we'll get into some stats on the teams, but also we'll get into some of the storylines surrounding the team, so that we know a bit more about their psyche and what's going on with them coming into the game. So that'll be Monday, 7:30. Then at 9 p.m., Court Conversations with Anthony D. He already texted me. He wants to talk about the gambling probe, not only Billups and Damon Jones and Rozier, but I'm hearing something now, and I have to, about Garnett and Ty Lue may have been in the room. I don't know. I have to brush up on that, because Anthony D. He's well rounded. Then we got the recap show with Geoff next day lunchtime. So the Knicks play Sunday. So we'll go on Monday lunchtime, and then Thursday's 9 p.m. the weekly show. Thanks for watching. I'm gonna shout out the chat real quick, get last words from Geoff, and we are out of here. Andrew K, appreciate you. Knicks Nation 127. Well, I'm not gonna say the 120, because I think that's YouTube adding that to
adding numbers randomly.
Yeah, Andrew K, appreciate you. Knicks Nation, Wolverines. I don't know. That 1986 might be him.
Yeah, that is him, I think.
That is him. Okay, see, now.
That's like size 9. Some of the numbers still matter. Some of them don't.
Right.
JJ 2252 or whatever he was.
Right.
He said that was random.
Right. Wolverines 1986. Appreciate you. Kerry Cox in the building. Presser. I don't know if I got that right, but I appreciate you stopping by. Lady in the Chef. Sis, it's been a minute. She said, and Josh is so essential to this team, grabbing every loose ball, rebound. Love his effort. I know some people are doing performance to pay $20 million. Yeah. I don't know what percentage of the salary cap it is. We'll see. We'll see what his role is, and then we can revisit that conversation if he's overpaid for his role. Wade Peterson, I appreciate you. Sherman's in the building. David Smith, the president, vice president, and secretary of the Karl Anthony Towns fan club, is in the building. Appreciate you. The art man formerly known as Steve. Jason Benjamin, coach, in the building. I appreciate you. I think, let me just go back to the beginning.
We got another super chat.
I got another super chat. Okay. All right. Wonder Woman, appreciate you. Sand, the art man. Oh, he has another one. Okay. All right. And 820 Light, appreciate you. And is that Duke Brown? Appreciate you. Yeah.
Geraldine in the house.
Geraldine in the house. Been a minute. Did I shout out Wonder Woman? I think I said Wonder Woman just now. I appreciate everybody. I appreciate the replay gang, and then the silent listeners who don't comment either in the chat or, on the replay. I appreciate you as well. Let me get to the super chat. Darby, formerly known as Steve. Nothing but love, y'all. Peace, love, and Soul Train. For those who remember, for those that know. All right. Any last words, Jeff?
Yeah, just first of all, y'all are we're so blessed. Queen's got all these great shows lined up for us. I'm gonna have to replay some of them because I don't have time to watch them all live. I know that, but the busiest, hardest working woman in show business. So thank you. These are a lot of fun. It's kind of it's a treat. And so I really enjoy it. And the chat coming in hot as always. Really appreciate you guys. 74 people watching on Saturday morning when most people are still in bed. It's pretty good. And so appreciate y'all and thank you so much. We don't take you for granted at all.
For sure. For sure. Jeff, always a pleasure. I'll see you Monday. Yeah.
Monday
until next time, family.
Sister, you're one of a kind.
Yes.
Sister, it's time you
That's
shine. DopeSoul.
Where you at? Where you at?
DopeSoul.
Where you at? Where you at?
DopeSoul.
What?
DopeSoul.
What?
Your soul.
Where you at? Where you at?
Great show as always. I think